La 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 la. There's been a statement. Statement FC have spoken. Yes, Statement FC have spoken. There's big news regarding the Celtic manager. We will get to that, but we need to talk about the bigoted thing in the room, isn't there? Well, not in this room, but yeah. Let me just see. We're here to laugh at the Rangers' horrible line defective statement. Yeah, we need to talk about it because let's face facts. You could not give that lot a brass neck with a blowtorch, realistically. You could not give them a brass neck with a blowtorch. This is the mentality. Now, this isn't about one-upmanship. This isn't about proving that we're better than them. This is all about showing that there is. Do you know the worst thing that ever happened in Scottish football back in 2012 is that we allowed them back into the bottom division. I'm going to say it. They were liquidated. They were dead. They started as a Newco. They should have been made to come through the ranks of a bottom tier club. They should have been put onto Sunday League football. They should never have been allowed. And any Celtic supporter to this day that thinks it was a great idea to put them back in the third division, ever since then, they've had a chip on their shoulder. Ever since 2012, they've had a chip on their shoulder. This is the kind of nonsense that you get from them online. Rangers women sign a player. Message from our latest signing, Kim Shin-ji. Haro, haro, we are the Berry Boys. We're up to our knees in curry sauce. Take my order or you'll die. It's one thing that I was taught in life. It was one thing that I was always taught is don't argue with idiots. I tend to block them on the channel. And don't argue with stupid people. Because stupid people, you'll never win an argument with stupid people. And the worst thing ever, and I've stood by this since 2012, the worst thing ever that Scottish football did was allow them a backdoor entry into the lowest division in Scotland to work their way back up through the ranks. We are paying today for their hatred of Scottish football because they seem to have been done wrong. They didn't pay their taxes. They went into liquidation. They died. The big house must stay home. The big house must stay home. Was that a fragment of our imagination? It's unbelievable. Completely unbelievable. And then to make it worse, do you know they've got away with getting away with what they've done over the years in Scottish football? The fact that they cannot see that at least our board and at least our fan base, when the Green Brigade are wrong, they call out the Green Brigade. When the Green Brigade get fines for setting off pyro, the fans call them out. I've never heard one Rangers fan call out the Union Bears. Not one. Running onto the pitch, assaulting police, assaulting Celtic staff. It's now come out tonight that they had knuckle dusters on. Who goes to the football with knuckle dusters on? It's not the 1980s, mate. And see these clowns that go to football and want to fight. You're a bunch of sad. Do you know there's kids go to football. We're talking about trying to make Scottish football better. And we're talking about trying to improve Scottish football. And you've got these knuckle draggers that are dragging the game into disrepute in Scotland. Yet what did they come out and say? There was a bit of graffiti about 66. How about you talk about the big banner that was there with the Jock Stein files? How about singing Up to Your Knees in Fenian Blood? It's not about getting one over. It's shown that yous are just utterly, it's unbelievable. And thank God I don't have any Rangers mates, because I've got a few, but we never talk about football, ever. Anyway, this is the statement from Sevco. They want an independent review of all matters following the events of Sunday's Scottish Cup fixture. They're taking no blame. At least Celtic ban the ultras. Could you imagine Rangers trying to ban the ultras? The hundreds that ran onto the pitch, that ran 3 quarters, they know where they come from, they know where they sit. But because Celtic's got a standing section, they do, well, we'll ban the 250 for the standing section. I await Rangers banning their ultras, and I bet you they don't. Disorder that occurred on Sunday was unacceptable, and we condemn it unequivocally. Yeah, safety must always come first in football for supporters, players, and everyone working in and around the game. Staff, stewards, emergency services operated in an extremely difficult circumstances on the day. Now, I know a lot of people that went to the game at the weekend, and they all spoke about the absolute shambles of the way that they had to enter the game. These Scotland and Rangers have a lot to answer for. Blaming the 7,000 whatever fans, blaming them for everything that went wrong is a deflection, complete deflection on everything that Rangers would do. But what do you expect from them? As individuals were identified and convicted of offences. That's a bullshit statement. Nobody has been convicted as yet because it's not went through the whole court cases. Right from the start, it is a nothing statement. No one has been convicted of any offence connected to the match. But the Rangers say we're individuals identified and connected, but they'll be withdrawn of privilege and stadium bans for anyone connected. If they are charged and it's taken to court, why don't you just ban your ultras? Simple as that. And then it goes on. The memory of 66 supporters who lost their... Oh, poor us. Poor little us. Let's talk about some graffiti that was on the top part of the stadium. Whilst I condemn the graffiti, but if you're going to condemn graffiti, are you not going to then condemn the actions of your own supporters against a Celtic legend, a Scotland legend, who died on the pitch? I can remember Jock Stein. I can remember watching the game where Jock Stein died in Wales on the pitch. There was no fucking ugly nastiness written about it then, was it? It's a modern day thing with Rangers fans. Singing up to their knees in Fenian blood. Nothing about that. But let's talk about, it's not rivalry, it's not banter, it's abuse of a tragedy that claims 66 lives. Let's play the poor us card. Tens of thousands of people attended Ibrox on Sunday simply to support their team with pride and watch football match and sing up to their knees in Fenian blood and sing about Jock Stein. And, but that's acceptable in their terms, isn't it? It's gamemanship. Yes, it does. It ignores the full context of what happened. Rangers fans went on the pitch looking for trouble. Let's not change the narrative. Let's not try and change history. Let's try and not change the fact that Rangers didn't die. This all leads back to 2012. The worst thing that happened that club was allowed to carry on as it should have been. It should have been shut down and shut down for good back then. It should have been an ASDA. And the fact that it wasn't. Anyway, just seen some of the comments. Graffiti on the wall would improve that stadium. Anyway, that's enough about them, because I just think the statement is unbelievable. When you go into it, care to comment how your own fans abhorrent banners and chants about the Celtic manager who attended the dying and injured Rangers fans at Ibrox Park when there were 66 died. Exactly. Nothing about your angry fans who attack police and stewards and the coaching staff. And yes, there'll be no Huns in Hampden. Tit for tat. What about the sectarianism that comes from your support week in, week out? Where's the statement on that? Or is it just ignored? And that's from an Aberdeen lad. Anything about being up to your knees in Fenian blood? Pedo chants. Jock Stein, Lisbon Lions. Usual hatred spouted every week. How about the assaults on fans, police, stewards, Celtic employees? It's not the first time. Nothing. I didn't think so. And it's not the first time that these type of incidents have happened at Ibrox. The fans that caused trouble wore blue gimp masks. They all came from the Union Bears section. They all run back to the Union Bears section. Step 1, permanently ban the Union Bears. End of problem. Celtic B team patches out in the last chance of a trophy. there's an effing statement. Anyway. Less said about that one, the better. There we go. 70s, a unionist 1690. I actually think that this is a decent statement, and I didn't think there was many decent fans with that lot, but that go to games, but this guy obviously is. My first game was 1967. I have followed the club through thick and thin, but I won't step back in the place until the cancer in the club is cleared. The Union Bears, a collection of coke-fueled adolescents who think they run the club. Get them out now. I've got to repost that one, because I think that's do you know, you've got to give them respect when they do call out their own. Celtic fans call out the Green Brigade all the time, and I've seen very, very little of the SFA statement. I'll get to that. I don't want to spend too long on this, because it's just the SFA are in their in their pockets. Let's just get this statement up. Imagine talking about child abuse consistently because you can't talk about football weirdos. Yeah. But anyway, we'll leave it on that. Your lot rioted, our lot celebrated. The thing is we can get all angry and stuff, and I'm glad I'm glad I don't stay in Scotland, because I think I'd be raging every minute just now, and it's a shame, because it drags Scotland down. Scotland's a beautiful country, but it is so divided, and the sectarianism is rearing its ugly head. And this is me seeing it from afar. Do you know, if I can see it, everyone else can see it. Sectarianism is getting worse in Scotland, and it's not coming from Catholics. Celtic have sung the same songs for as long as I can remember. But the hatred that comes from that support is through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. It's unbelievable. And it's a shame because they don't see it. They don't see what they're doing to the country. But they don't give a fuck because they wear their Union Jack and they'll say, anyway, that is enough of them. It is all about a potential new Celtic manager. It does look like, I'm going to jump into some of these comments there. Joseph Davis says, Baz, I'm getting so fucking angry. Yeah, mate. Yeah, I know it's a no-win situation, but you have to address it, or you could just focus on football, and you could not talk about the elephant in the room. But when if I was in Scotland, I'd probably try and not talk about it as much as I could, because I would just be wanting to focus on football, because I would be wary of repercussions in Scotland. Some random Hun walking up to you in the street and fucking lamping you because you do fucking YouTube. You Fenian bastard. I see the comments that I get online. Don't know, I would actually be wary about doing. I remember when I started this channel and I started doing videos going to games back in 2018, 2019. And someone said, you should put your face on camera. And someone that I knew from Edinburgh at the time was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't put your face on camera, because then, they will know who you are. And there'll be repercussions for that type of thing. I tell you one thing, I just wouldn't do it just now. And I'm glad that I stay out with the country, because they've lost control, mate. They've lost control. Sky and the media lap it up and then condemn it the minute it goes too far. The rivalry is pumped up by them as well. They're not innocent. Yeah, it's true. Don't get angry. Just don't stay quiet either. Yeah. We can discuss and laugh at them. Yeah, we can. You can. I love being called a Fenian. Yeah, I've been called a Fenian. I've been called a lot worse than a Fenian on this channel. And not just only this channel. The channel that I have with my missus that has nothing to do with football. She doesn't even... The first thing that she knew about football was during the COVID year, when she threw me a party. She said, I've no idea what this whole thing means, but he's loving the fact that I threw a party for him when we won the league. Anyway, we move on, because I want to talk about the Celtic manager situation. There's breaking news tonight that it looks like Dermot Desmond may have made his decision. Robbie Keane is now the favourite to succeed Martin O'Neill as the Celtic manager. Now, a lot of fans have been talking about Robbie Keane. Why do I look awful white in this tonight? Robbie Keane's been spoken about a lot by Celtic fans, and it looks like that his job could be the next Celtic manager's job, even though he's currently in a place that I rather wouldn't even speak about. Celtic power brokers believe that Keane could be the respect that it could be receptive to moving to Glasgow. There is, however, likely to be competition from other British sides, and one of them could be Tottenham. Could you imagine Tottenham trying to get Robbie Keane and Celtic going and get him first, or even Robbie Keane having to make a decision between Celtic and Spurs? That'd be an interesting one. But the Celtic power brokers believe that Keane, who has been linked with Celtic, could make the move, although no formal moves will be made until Celtic's domestic season is over. But Keane is the manager firmly in their sights, it has been said. Craig Bellamy, he's been ruled out due to his involvement with Wales in the World Cup playoffs. Scenario is now complicating things that they're saying. The Motherwell manager also has his admirers at Celtic, but it looks like that Dermot Desmond will be throwing his weight behind Robbie Keane getting the Celtic manager's job. How do you feel about that? I could tell straight away. Get the boy for Ipswich. Don't fancy Robbie Keane, to be fair. He's not one that would be high up on my list. Not sure that he would be high up on my list if he was a manager. I mean, he's done well in Europe this year. He has done well in Europe this year. Do a poll. Do a poll. Do you want Robbie Keane as manager? Should we do a poll on that? Let's do a poll. Since you all love a poll in the channel. Start poll. Simple yes or no. Do you want Robbie Keane? Do you want Robbie Keane as Celtic manager? Simple yes or no. Ooh, straight off. Straight off. Wow. I'll tell you how it progresses, but there's a big chunk of fans jumping in saying no straight away. I think that this definitely comes down to the fact that he would be a Dermot Desmond signing, if anything. But the fact that there's now a lot of media talking about it, and I don't know if it broke in Ireland first, the story. If it broke in Ireland first, it definitely means that Dermot Desmond has let this one slip. But with the fact I don't know. I'm just reading this other report coming out of Ireland about it. And it goes on to say Celtic started the season under Brendan Rodgers, who resigned under acrimonious circumstances. Keane was the candidate at the point that the Scottish champion hired O'Neill on the interim basis and then decided to pursue Wilfred Nancy. Celtic called time on Nancy's disastrous spell after 8 games and only the 2 wins. O'Neill returned to stabilise the club, but Robbie Keane's up there. I'll give you the money myself. It's Dennis. The only poll like the holy goalie. Joseph Davison says, whoever gets it, I'll back him 100%. Paul Bear says, whoever gets the manager's job will be Dermot Desmond's choice at the end of the day. I think so. I think after the disastrous Wilfred Nancy scenario, I think that it's Dermot Desmond will be riding gunshot over this one. He'll not allow the clowns to make the decision. Will it be a good thing or not? You've got to put it this way. I mean, when you look at the only times that he has made the decision for himself and disregarded what the club wanted to do. The first time he did it was under Martin O'Neill. That should have been the warning sign for us back then, that he was a dictator, when he went against the board and brought in Martin O'Neill. But then people will say, well, Martin O'Neill was fantastic for Celtic and he turned out to be a Celtic legend. We all knew that Gordon Strachan was going to be the Celtic manager after. You know, that was well documented that Strachan was well lined up for the Celtic job. Could this be the fact that the Irish connection is there? Could it be the fact that if there are any changes within the hierarchy of Celtic. If you remember a few months ago, there was a woman who used to be quite high up in Leicester, and she was Irish, and she was at a Celtic game, sitting up beside the board members. Wonder if that was a preemption of getting her. Would rather Keane than Martinez. There's one comment that's just come in. Keane could be at Spurs by that time anyway. Do you think that he'll leave it? I've never said, sorry, Paul Boy 67. I will never feel sorry for Spurs. Never. Brad's bringing up what Robbie Keane has done in his managerial career is a fair way of doing it. I don't think it matters what Robbie Keane's done in his managerial career, because what had Martin O'Neill done in his managerial career before he came to Celtic? He won one cup. Brendan Rodgers won one cup as well, I think. Don't know. We're not talking about bringing. I think we need a reality check, and whatever we want. I mean, we spoke about last night about the Motherwell manager, and we've done a SWOT analysis between the Motherwell manager and Roberto Martinez, who up until last night were the front runners to take the job. Robbie Keane was down. Whatever's happened today to leak this information has to have come from the very, very top or someone close to Dermot Desmond. And I know that he doesn't like speaking to the media, but there has to be some kind of connection for Robbie Keane to come. He was way down the odds, and as it stands tonight, he's almost favourite, according to some journalists. He's the front runner, emerges for the managerial role, is one headline. It will be interesting, and I just hope that if Celtic do make the decision, they make it quick, because, like I said, the day after the league finishes, or if we get to the Scottish Cup final, the day after, Martin O'Neill will, I mean, as soon as the cup final's over, Martin O'Neill will be asked the question, would you stay on? And he'll be like, no, that's it. Don't know. At least he will tell us, unlike the great man himself, Wim Jansen, who took the plaudits and then disappeared a couple of days later into the twilight. Just change the light on that. I wonder how many doors will go in tomorrow. Dermot Desmond was at Cheltenham today. Well, there you go. Few beers, and he's giving it that, and then journals are listening in, and oh, there's an update from Celtic from Brian Wilson. There is an update from Celtic. Let me just go straight onto the Celtic website. Now, this will be tit for tat. Right, we're going to listen to Brian Wilson.
Last weekend, and get your thoughts on the Scottish Cup game at Ibrox. A fantastic result, perhaps somewhat overshadowed by what happened at the end of the game.
This is on the Celtic YouTube channel.
Your thoughts on that, looking back a few days later?
Well, it was a great outcome, and every Celtic supporter celebrated with it. And it is unfortunate that the events after the game have, to some extent, detracted or overshadowed the actual result and the fantastic spirit and resilience that our players showed in achieving it, and also as usual, the management skills of Martin and his team. My response very much is that I was disappointed, frankly, by the comments of the Chief Constable, because as she presumably knows, Celtic work very closely with Police Scotland. We respect the role of the Safety Advisory Group, and when there is evidence of unacceptable behaviours, we act against both individuals and groups, and all of that is well on the record. And I think that, you know, measuring responses by condemnatory statements isn't really very accurate. That if this could be resolved by statements of condemnation, it would have been resolved decades ago. And really, it's actions that matter, and the way that we as a club handle these experiences, and the way others handle these experiences. So I think if you're going to ask for condemnation, you have to be more specific. And there are certainly things which I would happily condemn and regret. But probably the highest profile aspect of this was after the penalty went in and Celtic had won. And what you had there was a euphoric response from our supporters. It's not uncommon.
There we go. It is not uncommon. We have seen it by Rangers fans, by Aberdeen fans, and lots of other fans. You've seen lots of fans going on the pitch when they win games late on in that situation.
In fact, it's happened on quite numerous occasions this season alone in Scottish football, where you have an overspill onto the pitch, and that in itself, you know, does not normally draw expressions of condemnation. And therefore, what I would say about that is that, you know, I welcome the SFA's intention to have a full inquiry. So let's look at the evidence. If there's evidence of violence, if there's evidence of threats of violence, then of course I'll condemn that. But let's look at the evidence before we create maybe a false narrative.
Yeah, the false narrative, the narrative that is blaming 7,000 plus Celtic fans on being in the stadium.
This inquiry by the SFA, and again, I welcome that. We met this week with the Celtic Supporters Association, a well-established, well-respected organisation which doesn't raise issues lightly, and they had real concerns about the access to the Broomloan stand, the departure from previous procedures which they believed had worked well, and a genuine concern about the safety of supporters. Now again, we didn't rush out a statement on that because we think the way to address that is through discussion with the authorities, again an evidence-based approach leading to conclusions about what did go right and what did go wrong, and lessons to be learned from it. But we take that very seriously, and I can assure you that there were, you know, people with a lot of experience of attending these games who had genuine concerns for the safety of supporters.
I've got to say, fair play to the Celtic Supporters Association that I have been a member of for years, and I know people like, I mean, I'm not sure if Alan Horn still runs the Celtic Supporters Association, but people like Alan Horn have been going to games and are well respected within our fan base. And if it's people like him that are raising the concerns before the game at the weekend, these are the people that are worth listening to within our support.
Leaving last weekend aside then, if I can talk to you about a separate matter, but still to do with supporters, you've spoken to me recently about your hope that agreement, common ground, if you like, could be reached that would allow for a full capacity stadium getting behind the team. And that involves, of course, the Green Brigade potentially getting back in. You've said that's what you want. What has the club done in recent weeks then in order to try and achieve this?
Well, if I can just go through the process, we met with the Green Brigade. It was clear that the purpose of that meeting was to have a shared approach which allowed us to go to Glasgow City Council Safety Advisory Group and to advocate for the group's return. That meeting of the Safety Advisory Group took place about 3 weeks ago. Celtic made that case, and Police Scotland said they were not really prepared to go along with it. And the two grounds for that: one was they said that the members of the Green Brigade had continued to attend most games in defiance of the suspensions. So in that respect, nothing had really changed, but also that behaviours had not changed, and particularly behaviours towards the police and stewarding. Now, I'm just reporting that as what the position of Police Scotland was, which also became the position of the Safety Advisory Group. We met again this week with the Green Brigade, explained this to them to be the position, and essentially that the conclusion of that meeting of the Safety Advisory Group was that there were conditions set which would begin again to create a pathway for the return of the full section. Now, we've communicated these to them. I think that they should accept them. I think if they accept them, then they get into a dialogue about the management of the policing and stewarding of the section, and that, as I say, it creates a pathway to resolving this, certainly until the end of the season, and then let's look at the whole protocol all again. So these have been communicated, both verbally and in writing, and we now await a response. So it is possible, but the ball is very much in their court. They are not unreasonable. They are not draconian conditions. They are the conditions which apply to every other part of the stadium, but it's really up to them. And it's not. This is not unilateral, as the Green Brigade like to claim that it's a club decision whether we let them back in or not. It's not because it is a matter for police, it's a matter for the Safety Advisory Group, and we cannot override the advice that they are given.
That is interesting. So we have it straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Brian Wilson has he's admitted what a lot of us had been told, is that the Green Brigade had rejected the proposals that had been put forward to the Green Brigade by the club and obviously the safety committee, etc. And they want no police. From what I'm being told, they want no police and no stewards in the concourse and in and around the section of the standing section. And that seems to be the issue. They're saying, no, it will be policed the same as every other section in the ground, and you need to get on with it. That's where we are. It's interesting that we're actually hearing that from Brian Wilson. Should Brian Wilson had come out and spoke about this well before now? Is this reactionary to what happened at Ibrox? Is it reaction? This, once again, I think that Celtic have been, it is a reactionary statement. I mean, Brian Wilson says at the beginning of this statement, look, we had meetings last week, but we don't come out and make statements. Maybe the club should engage with the supporters a little bit more. Anyway, it's interesting that we've finally heard from Brian Wilson that the Green Brigade have rejected the proposals being put to them.
But just to clarify something you said there, these set of measures, this isn't a unique set of measures for the Green Brigade. This is a set of measures that all supporters have to comply with. Is that what you're saying? Well,
absolutely. I mean, it's basically the terms and conditions of season tickets, which they do accept. It's acceptance of the principle of respecting stewarding and policing arrangements within the section. It's supporting efforts to prevent overcrowding by incursions from elsewhere in the stadium into the section. And there's also a strong concern from the police about anti-police activities, photographing police, pig watch campaigns and so on within the...
Wait a minute.
Now, I don't think any of these to say...
Look, I'm sorry, Brian Wilson, but I'll put my hands up. Back in 2013, 14, 15, I was videoing police activity and putting it on this channel that were happening against the section back then. That's a cop-out. That is a cop-out. There's many videos on this channel. There's one video where there was a secret meeting that took part inside the ground with plain-clothed police officers that were spread about the fans, and then all met up with uniformed coppers in the concourse. I will put that video up. So Brian Wilson saying that this attack on the modern attack on police is the issue. Police have been getting filmed at Celtic Park for their actions against fans for a long time, mate. And I've got the evidence for that on this channel.
these are unacceptable behaviours, or these are things that can be accepted as the basis of finding a pathway. And I don't think if there's a will to find a solution to this, that these are in any way unreasonable. But as I say, the ball's in their court, and they have not yet come back to us.
Just finally, Brian, let me talk to you about football. There's been a really difficult series of 4 away games that, had they not gone positively for Martin and Sean and the boys, could have potentially derailed the season. How proud are you of the coaching staff and the team that we're still there fighting on all fronts?
I think what they've done is just fantastic. If you go back to the turn of the year, the position we find ourselves in now, that we exited Europe, but we did it with great dignity and a real flourish in Stuttgart. We're in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup after a memorable victory in the face of many injuries, and we're challenged in a very strong, challenging position for the league. So I think most of us at the beginning of January would have thought that would be great. And what Martin, the coaching staff and the players have done in that period commands the utter respect of every Celtic supporter.
That was Brian Wilson speaking on the Celtic YouTube channel this evening. That has just been posted in the last 10-15 minutes or so. But that changes everything, doesn't it? A lot of people been asking about the Green Brigade situation. At least now we have the clarity, and what was put down as rumour has been confirmed by Brian Wilson. So there we go. That's all that I'm going to comment on that. Don't hear Wilson talking about attacks by police on Celtic fans. Going into Ibrox. Police don't want filmed. Yeah, this is true, but do you know, I used to film the police back in the day, filming fans when this was all new. You know, when they started filming fans, I was like, well, why are you filming fans at a game? Then they're not doing nothing, they're just singing. So, but like I say, I've got various videos that go back to 2014 time on this channel. If you want to go and look for them, you can see. I'll put some of them up on the channel later. But anyway, what an evening it's been. There's been quite a lot. Just when you think it's going to be a slow news day, with Celtic, obviously Rangers and the SFA put out their statement with regards to what happened. And should Rangers have waited until the Thursday? I mean, haven't Rangers waited quite a long time to put out any kind of statement, considering the state they should? It was at their stadium. Shouldn't it have come out and condemned it on Monday? Why wait until Thursday before putting out a statement? Because they know that their manager will be asked about everything tomorrow morning, because they do their press conference at around about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then Martin O'Neill does his press conference later on in the afternoon. Jesus. Right. There is a poll running. You literally cannot speak to a police officer these days. Not at the football end. I mean, remember the good old days when you could talk to a copper and ask him stuff, and God, I remember police officers knowing your parents' name, bringing you home drunk when I was younger, and he would be like, I thought he's pissed, fucking take him inside. But anyway, thank you, Stephen Johnston. I went back and watched the Killie game. The amount of stewards and police that were in place ready to move when Morocco scored shines massive light on today. It does. I mean, I think that Rangers have to take, hopefully, it's like Brian Wilson says, look, before you start throwing the blame at 7,000 Celtic fans being at a game, let's look at the evidence. And the evidence is that Rangers didn't police I mean, if anything, Rangers should come out of this worse. Let's be honest. But they'll not see it like that, because we went on the pitch first. And we know that they do not like us. They fucking did, didn't they? The coppers knew your names back then. They knew your mum, and they just, but it was all local cops back then. Do you know what I mean? It was like the the police generally stayed in the same area as you. Anyway, that was a long time ago. Nothing like that now. Will the Union Bears be barred from paradise? No, they won't. Celtic are still letting in 2,500 fans. They don't want to ruin what has already been done. But anyway, hilarious that they've not condemned their own fans for charging the pitch. Yeah, no, it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? But anyway, it's enough about them for tonight. We have a game this weekend. Yeah, we have a game this weekend. And with the fact that Robbie Keane has been mentioned as the next possible potential Celtic manager, we need to look forward to the team that Martin O'Neill may pick for Celtic versus Motherwell this weekend. Will Kieran Tierney return to the team this weekend? Brendan Rodgers left Celtic a long time ago, brought Kieran Tierney back to the club as the promised figurehead or whatever. It's back to business, back to league business this weekend. Thank goodness. Police Scotland are the biggest drug couriers in the country. It is back to business, but who will Celtic put in the team this weekend? Celtic have had a week off. They've had a week where they could focus on just seeing who's fit, focus on a little bit of tactical activity, and maybe focus on putting the ball in the back of the net, lads, and like having a go in the final third. Hopefully Fozzie and Sean Maloney and McManus will have changed the training this week a bit, because it's not about just but the big thing is Kasper Schmeichel returns. Kasper Schmeichel. Could he be back this weekend, or will Sinisalo, the Messiah in waiting, yet our great very own Finn, the great Finn, as he will be known in time to come, will he retain his place for a Parkhead lineup? He has been the keeper for all these away games over the last couple of weeks, even though Kasper Schmeichel had an injected with a poison. He had an injection and it made him mysteriously ill. He looked like, I don't know, but anyway. Will Sinisalo will start this weekend. Celtic have found a worthy, great, fantastic player since Alistair Johnson has been out. Julian Araujo, the player that every Celtic fan wants Celtic to sign. If Julian Araujo is allowed to leave the club this summer, it will be one of the biggest travesties ever in Scottish football. Alistair Johnston's a fantastic player. We do have young Colby Donovan and Tony Ralston all fighting for that single position. When it comes to the summer, I really hope that we do try and do something to keep Julian Araujo, because he is one player that you won't play for Celtic all day long. He's not a badge kisser, he's not a, let's touch the badge and wave to the fans. He knows what Celtic are all about, and he gets the fans. For me, Julian Araujo will start this weekend. Liam Scales will start again, but will he start beside Benjamin Arthur, or will big Dane Murray just walk straight back into that start lineup? I think he'll start with Dane Murray and Liam Scales. He'll also bring back Kieran Tierney. Will Kieran Tierney be the captain, or will it be Liam Scales? Now, there's the question for you, because Liam Scales was captain at the weekend when we never managed to have a shot on goal, but we ended up triumphant in the game. Who gets the captaincy armband? Is it Scales because he's been at Celtic the last 5 years, or would it be Kieran Tierney because he's came through the system at Celtic? That's an interesting one. So the back four for me will be Kieran Tierney, Dane Murray, Liam Scales, and Julian Araujo will start. Now, when it comes to the middle of the park, we have an issue. We got a problem here. Yes, we have an issue in the fact that Calmack will be out. Callum McGregor will still be missing. Arnie Engels is also still missing until the end of this month. It means that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Rio Hatate, Luke McCowan, Benji Negrin and Paolo Bernardo. There's been a lot of chat about Paolo Bernardo online over the last couple of days. A lot of people talking about that Paolo Bernardo is coming on leaps and bounds in training, whatever that means. It all seems to be pointing for Paolo Bernardo having a major role to play at Celtic next season. Will Paolo Bernardo get a starting point against Motherwell this weekend, or will it be Luke McCowan? It's definitely going to be Rio Hatate. It's definitely going to be Benji Negrin. So the third place, the middle holding role, it's got to be Paolo Bernardo, surely. I mean, he played really well at Ibrox when he came on. And I've got to say, Luke McCowan, he's just not cutting the mustard, is he? So my midfield three for Sunday's game will be Luke McCowan, Rio Hatate and Benji Negrin. Now, the attack. There can only be the three that will start. And I think that you go with your strongest three, and it was the three that kind of started at the weekend. But it's the three that just don't seem to be clicking as a forward three. Hence the reason that we need them to start scoring. Big Tam the Czech is obviously better than Junior Adamu. I'm going to say it. He's better than Junior Adamu, the other player that was brought in as a striker in the last window. Sebastian Tenecti on the wing. Another player that has lots of potential to be a superstar at Celtic, but just doesn't seem to be hitting. And then there's Daisen Maeda, who seems to be, how can we say, he's not the Duracell bunny that he's been in the past few years, is he? It's like someone's taken out the Duracell batteries in Dyson and replaced them with those high energy batteries that you get, you know, the cheapo ones. That's definitely what's happened. We should have kept Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny, 1 goal and 1 assist in 5 games at Bolton, up and running. A few people saying we should have kept Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny was chased out of Celtic. The good thing is that Johnny Kenny will be back at Celtic in the summer, and he will re-establish himself as a Celtic player. John, the truck driving legend from the Balfarg in Glenoffice, is in. I once asked Polis for her number. She took me home, handcuffed me, and the night was under arrest. That's when I was a young boy. Anyhow, I would give Scales the armband. It's always a pleasure. Are you in your truck tonight, by any chance? Thank you for the super chat this evening. Anyway, let's jump back into the poll, because we started off the evening talking about the Celtic manager and the fact that Robbie Keane has been instated as the favourite as the Celtic manager as of today. Robbie Keane was way down the bookies' odds as Celtic manager, but I think the story maybe came out of Ireland first. The Scottish media might try and take advantage of it. I don't know. But anyway, it has come out that Robbie Keane is now favourite to succeed Martin O'Neill. For me, that has one man's hands, sticky paws, whatever, all over it. It is Dermot Desmond. Is Dermot Desmond going, nope, I've made my decision, we get Robbie Keane? And has he spoken to Robbie Keane? We'll wait and see. Anyway, do you want Robbie Keane as Celtic manager? We've had 361 votes. It's quite emphatic. It's 72%. Wow. 72% say no. They do not want Robbie Keane as manager. And 28% say yes. Out of the 361 votes. Interesting. Right, that is me done and dusted for this evening. Very, very lively evening. If KT plays Saturday, I would make him captain, says Helen. Kenny's still one of our top goal scorers, and he's not even here. John Reggie would be better. Young Osmond not due back. I think that young Osmond is due back after the international break also. He did have a little mishap in his recovery that set him back a couple of weeks. So I'm not exactly sure when Johnny Kenny will be back. I think it is understanding by Celtic that Johnny Kenny's basically playing no part in this season. But anyway, it'd be nice to see Big Tam growing confidence from Sunday's penalty. Yeah, it would be that. And it could be Robbie Dyler. Anyway, that has been done and dusted for this evening. Thank you to the 3,500 people that we've had on the video in this nice 50-minute section. I shall see you in the morning, and hopefully there won't be any crazy headlines. Yeah, there will be. Of course there will be. And then we'll hear from Martin O'Neill tomorrow afternoon. That's going to be a fantastic interview by Martin O'Neill. And we'll have to listen into what the Rangers manager says, of course, to see what absolute bollocks he comes out with. Anyway, have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are all around the world.